Hey everyone, it's Kirsten. Welcome to Season 3 of The Anthropocene. Hey everyone, Kirsten here, just with a quick little note before I get going with the regular episode. So today, my special guest has sent us a sound clip from the incredible project that we're going to be talking about this episode without spoiling too much. So do make sure that you hang out until the very end so that you can have a listen to this amazing project. Without further ado, let's get on with the episode. The scene is set. Blue. A million shades of blue and green dance around you. The rhythmic heartbeat of waves overhead seem to match yours as you take in the underwater world. Sometimes when you're down here, it feels like you're in a completely different universe. But you're right here on Earth. And to be fair, this is much more of the Earth than the land that you normally occupy. A large school of fish glimmer bright silver while their mass moves as one. Soon, they too are out of sight. For a brief moment, it seems like there's nothing else out here in this vast blue. But you wait patiently. You were sure they were coming this direction. And then your heart leaps in your chest, but you make sure to keep your breathing steady. A deep, bellowing symphony resounds through the water, and the feelings it inspires are truly indescribable. You soon see them drift by, some 200 meters away from you. Giants moving effortlessly through the water. Their wise and kind eyes observe you briefly before continuing on their way, their songs trailing long behind them. Whales. Wow, what a beautiful moment. After a few more minutes of simply being one with the ocean, letting yourself take it all in, you turn to your team and signal to return to the boat, ready to share this incredible experience with the world. And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back. We were on a little bit of a pause there, so I thank everybody so much for their patience. And I'm super stoked because today I am here with Joshua Sam Miller from Embodied Sounds, here to talk about his work with Sounds of the Ocean project. So today we're going to dive into how we can use music and the incredible sounds of nature itself to inspire mindfulness, improve mental health, and ultimately to promote ocean conservation. So, Joshua, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you introduce yourself to the audience a little bit?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. And I have to say first that I just loved your poetry at the beginning. That was really setting a nice tone. So I'm very happy to be here. And such a lover of the ocean myself, I have always been fascinated with life underwater, which is definitely a big topic of what it is that we can talk about today. I think my path has taken many twists and turns over the almost 4 decades of my life. Well, I guess 3 decades. I'm almost 40, kind of starting to think about that. And have always been a fan of both the ocean and music, which is a big part of my life these days. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Okay, that's so great. So something that we've kind of, a theme for season 3 accidentally that we've come across a lot is people getting, to where they're at in weird ways. So can you just share a little bit of your background and how you ended up here working with music and nature? And then we'll talk a little bit more about the project.
Sure. I like to describe my experience as being a combination of preparation and a bit of luck, because there's definitely no way that if you had asked me 20 years ago, would I be doing what I'm doing now, I would have said yes.
Right.
So sometimes my experience has been that life kind of happens when you're not making plans and you're just living what it is that you feel is the most calling to you to be pursuing. And I think it's very important to always have that directional sense of where you want to go, which sometimes I definitely did not have and just had to take a chance. But if you can have that sense of, okay, this is the direction I want to go in, it's very helpful. And music has always been in and out of my life. I grew up in the New York area and played in bands as a high school kid for fun, jamming on the weekends, and studied clarinet in school. So I was able to develop a bit of a musical familiarity at a young age, but by no means did I take it too seriously. And classical music wasn't really for me. I was interested in jazz and loved listening to jazz, but it turns out that wasn't really my pathway either. And it really wasn't until I was much older, like we're talking early 30s, that I discovered a way of playing music as an artist and a composer that truly did make sense to me, which is a very expressive, ambient, improvisational approach. And it turns out that I both have a tendency to gravitate towards rhythm and melodic instruments. So it's been a lot of fun over the last couple of years to blend that all together and be able to combine that with such a mission-based goal, such as fighting for the health of our oceans, really brings me back to early days growing up as a scuba diver and being someone that just spent a lot of time underwater. And as I got older and started to revisit places that I had been to as a kid, I was quite shocked at how much has changed. Unfortunately, not so much for the better. And there's a lot of sites now that are quite polluted that weren't before. And so this combination, I think, of witnessing that, getting introduced to a modality like sound and music, which is very close to my personal interests, really inspired me to just kind of do something that I felt needed to be done. And it turns out people also agreed with that and decided to come and check it out, which is so important. The power of connection with a community is really what I think has been the biggest sustaining, motivator over the last couple of years. And that has been fantastic.
Right. That's so cool. So for anybody that hasn't heard of the Sounds of the Ocean project or just embodied sounds in general, can you just give a little bit of a descriptor of what it is, what it looks like?
Definitely. Not to give too much of the pitch here, but Sounds of the Ocean really is an immersive journey into the sea to connect with the power of life underwater, the magic of life underwater, and also your own wellness and personal well-being, whether that be emotional, mental, physical, or spiritual health. It's really designed to support both your awareness of what's happening in the ocean, as well as helping you to feel better in your daily life. And we take this approach of combining original recordings of whales and dolphins, sound recordings, with music that's been composed to support your rest and well-being. And we offer that in many different formats. So we do live performances, film screenings, and also listening sessions where people can either together as a group or one-on-one really have this experience in a very high-quality technological way, which helps, I think, to zone out and tune out the background distractions that are in our daily lives. So we include some technology in our experiences, like sometimes headphones or sound devices that will not only make sound, but allow you to feel sound as well through vibrations. And this is really powerful, especially with the blue whales, which are very low frequencies. And also working in spaces like planetariums, science museums, and movie theaters to really take advantage of all of this wonderful visual equipment that exists in a lot of different places around the world, and really put this behind our mission of advocating for the ocean and making that a priority in these types of entertainment venues.
Right. That's so great. Because I know a lot of us have like so much of a love-hate relationship with technology right now because it's so complicated. But it gives us this
Mhm.
incredible interface to be able to like really experience things that you can't always do. Like not everybody has a chance to actually get inside the ocean and, like you said, feel what a vibration of a song sounds like. And so at least you can help people connect to that in a different way.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I observed being someone who did get to go diving early in my life is that there are a lot of people who, for many reasons, will never have that experience. And it'll either just be too scary or something they're not interested in, or maybe too expensive or just not accessible, for everyone to get to do. And we developed this project to try and help bring the ocean to us so that people can feel the beauty and the magic of what that experience is like without necessarily having to put on the mask and the snorkel and the tanks and all of the breathing equipment that you need to learn how to use in order to be in that environment. And of course, it's not the same. We're not thinking that it is exactly the same, but it kind of gives you a taste of what it feels like down there. And a lot of divers, makes me very proud to hear, after our experience, have told me I really felt like I was underwater.
Wow.
And I think that speaks just to the magic of what sound can do, because it's such a powerful tool that many people don't realize they can be using in a different way,
Right.
Than just listening to whatever comes on the radio, for example.
Right. It's like a healing tool, like you said, brings people together. It's very, very powerful for people, yeah, in general.
Yeah, it really is. And regardless kind of what your intentions are, it can be used for many different things, but I think really tuning into that sense of sound and listening in our day-to-day lives has the power to affect us in an instant, whereas other things, maybe take a bit more time. So it's a really quick way to achieve your goal, depending on whatever it is.
That's great. So you talked a little bit about your inspiration, coming from going back to these places and seeing pollution and seeing these degraded habitats. But was there a moment for you where, the sounds of nature, combining it with music, like clicked? Was there like a moment of inspiration, or is it something that kind of built up over time?
There was totally an aha moment, I would describe it, where I was giving concerts in California, Santa Cruz to be specific, and playing music to help people relax, doing sound baths, which you may have heard of, quite popular these days. And at one of those concerts, a gentleman from the audience came up to me afterwards and said, I really liked your music, and I think this might be of interest for you to listen to some whale sounds and some recordings of ocean noise. And it turns out that he was a marine biologist by the name of John Ryan, who works at the Monterey Bay Aquatic Research Institute. And I went down to his office and listened to these recordings, and he was totally right. I was extremely taken by these magical sounds, and will never forget the first time I heard the sound of a blue whale, which really does sound and feel like an earthquake could be happening,
Right.
to be honest. And living in California, that's something you kind of wonder is that going to happen or not? So I was quite taken by the power of these recordings, and decided to host a concert in Santa Cruz, which fortunately was very well attended and allowed me to see that there are other people who are also interested in this topic and this genre of music, which is what I like to call the ocean genre.
Oh, okay.
And that was really the start of everything I'm doing now. And from there, we had a brief interruption with the COVID pandemic and had to transition to different types of experiences. But I'm very happy to say 5 years later, we are still going strong, allowing people to connect with the magic of life underwater.
That's so great. There are many benefits to being a marine biologist. That's so great that you had that like connection. And yeah, I mean, we're talking a little bit about like connecting nature and science with mental health, because there's a lot. You see this as a recurring theme where we're trying to put people like back into nature because we've been a part of nature instead of being a part of nature, if you've heard that before. In
Yes,
the
I like
like
that.
most simple way you can, what is like the main goal for your audience from these, other than we talked a little bit about this, but what is the thing that you really want to do with the sounds of the ocean?
Yeah, I would say take moments in your life to relax, reduce stress, and think about what you can be doing for causes and locations, habitats that are much larger than your own existence. I would say this is a very special part of our project to motivate that what we like to call mindful activism.
Okay.
And this is really a concept that allows people to notice what's going on and do something about it. Not be an innocent, passive consumer, but be an active part of your reality. And whether that means choosing to make healthy choices in your own life or doing something good for the planet, you will be contributing to a healthier world. Maybe both, for example. So we have a number of ways that people who attend our experiences can take action, either through participating in a beach cleanup if you do live near the coast, making a donation, adopting a whale, adopting a coral. This is a new one we're working on right now.
Okay.
And really making an effort to give back to the ocean and also feel good doing that for your own well-being.
Right. So there's it's kind of like a two-edged thing. Like you can physically actually be involved in conservation, but also the improving of your mental health and your well-being goes hand in hand with doing a better job taking care of the environment around us.
Definitely. For one of the things that we've decided to do with all of our events is build into, for example, like a ticket, some type of impact or conservation, give back, so that just by showing up to one of our experiences, you're doing enough.
Right.
Just by showing up, just by being there and receiving the experience, being present, trying something new, doing something different, saying yes, and knowing that you're not only supporting, yourself, but your presence has already gone to support the ocean. If you feel inspired to do something more than that, well, that's great. And there's a lot of ways that you can make a difference and an impact there, through one of our partnerships or others in your local community, because we really feel that the solution to fight climate change, ocean pollution, and also mental health is really focusing on local communities being empowered and supported to do things in their own region, their own regions and vicinity that will make a positive difference collectively.
Right. Yeah. I feel like a lot of times, we're so overwhelmed. I'm sure you've heard the term like eco anxiety before, like especially people that are biologists and ecologists or anybody that puts any more than a little bit of attention to what's going on. And we often kind of get this draw to like, oh, save the rainforest and save, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, absolutely. But what about taking care of, the little piece that's yours, right? Like, what about making sure that you have native plants there? If you're on the coast, just do a little beach cleanup. Focusing a little bit on your community. And I think it's great as well, too, if you adopt a panda bear or, you go out and also are involved in like rainforest initiatives. But I think sometimes that like little piece of the puzzle we're missing is what about what's right near you as well. So that's really great.
Definitely. And this is something that I'm really grateful I got to experience firsthand being a touring musician, because for the first 3 years of doing this work, the only way that people could really experience it was if they were at one of the concerts, and that was it. We didn't have any music online. We didn't have any films produced at that time, and I was invited to get to go to some really incredible places that really do care about the health of the ocean. And they liked the project. They thought it was interesting. So I got to travel a lot. And this allowed me to meet a network of individuals around the world, all caring about the same common cause and coming at it from kind of a similar angle, but just not knowing that other people are also doing that.
Right.
And I think the solutions is exactly what we're talking about here, which is really empowering that local level engagement to inspire people to take better care of their surroundings where they are. And one thing that's been interesting too over the development the last couple of years is now we work a lot in parts of the world that are not near the ocean at all. Actually, they're quite inland, maybe on a river or a lake or a mountain. And sometimes we get the question, well, how does this make sense for us? Why should we have a show about the ocean in a place that's not on the ocean? And we have learned over the years that this connection of water between all bodies of water is so important for people to build a deeper understanding of. And I think our show does a good job at pointing that out. And for example, later this month, we're actually about to go do a river cleanup here in Germany, where I'm physically located these days. And all water from rivers flows into the
Right.
ocean. So it really makes sense to prioritize clean water, obviously, everywhere. And so this is something that's been, it seems simple to say it now, but very good to understand and realize how many people kind of miss that connection over great distances because it's easy to forget about it. So we also like to adapt people's thinking of just how they can be focusing their attention on making sure water is clean wherever they live, for example. And this is a really important part of life for all of us.
Right. Yeah. It's the local piece, which expands into like a globalized, connected perspective because everything, the whole water cycle is connected everywhere. Right. That's great. So tying back just a little bit more to the mental health part again, because we're talking a lot about like the direct action. But for you, like how is mental health and well-being like connected directly to conservation of our ocean and our planet in general?
Yeah, I think this is a very large topic, and there's probably more ways of answering that, than one for everyone. I would say when I think about the times in my life where, I've been stressed or not feeling so well with anxiety, or even at times I could say depression, usually what has helped me through those moments is doing something that allows me to move through that that feeling or that thought or that state of being. And maybe that's as simple as just getting up and going for a walk. But the things that's made me feel really good is when I can be of service to something else
Right.
besides me. And I think that's really where the link is between mental health and environmental conservation, because by doing something for the planet, you also benefit from doing that because you feel better, usually. This is not 100% of a thing, but usually that works really well. And I definitely would like to inspire more people to give that a try and feel like they're part of the solution not part of the problem.
Right, right. It's just like feeling connected to something greater than yourself. And like you said, being part of the solution, because
Yes.
sometimes, you just feel bad for existing when you're actually like looking at all of these issues, but you just do a little bit, and that's more than enough, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
And it can be really simple too. It doesn't have to be like, you founded, a nonprofit and you're doing such and such, but like just picking up a piece of plastic when you go out for a walk,
Hmm.
and noticing that that's there lying on the ground, if, that is something that you can do, that's great.
Right.
Um, so I think, yeah, I think keeping it simple is really important,
Hmm.
and inspiring people to do things together is also very important.
Right. A little bit of a sense of community. Yeah, I also find that interesting because, we're talking about how, inspiring the action can improve your mental health. And also on the other side, I feel like, we talk a lot about in conservation in general, when you're not at your best, you're also not motivated to help or do better either. So I think it's kind of these two-sided things. Like doing the action can make you feel better. And also if you feel a little bit better first, you can be more inspired to do the action. So maybe it's just this like positive feedback loop of like being a part of something.
Yeah, definitely, which I think is really that's really important too, to also give permission not to do
Hmm.
something, if you don't feel you have capacity for that.
Hmm.
That's also okay, because that's where you're at today.
Hmm.
I think mental health, mindfulness, it's also about really giving yourself that permission to do nothing in that moment, if that's really what you need. And tomorrow's a new day. I think that's also important to mention. It's not just about doing the action. It's kind of about noticing what's going on for you
Hmm.
and being compassionate with yourself, so that, you know, whether it's in that moment or in the future, you're setting yourself up to be helpful in something, whether it's for the health of the ocean, or your community, yourself, your family, relationship, work, like all these responsibilities that we have that can sometimes feel like a lot.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes all you really need is just permission to chill. And
Right.
this is what, not just to go back to the experience, but my whole approach to creating art in general, I feel like is trying to do, is give people permission to do that.
Hmm.
Because we're not really trying to be wowing you with the latest, uh, like the best of anything.
Hmm.
That's not really the goal here. It's more to invite you into a space where you can uh, express something that maybe needs to come up, and have the permission to do that, and just be.
Right. The permission to just be is important. I love that. That's great.
Definitely.
So this might be a really simple but very complex question. Why whales and dolphins specifically?
It turns out they're very good singers. That's uh that's really it.
Right.
It's they're one of the loudest and most vocal species in the sea.
Right.
So we have a lot of recordings of them. Um, and I think the language that they speak is quite interesting. It's quite a mystery, which has fascinated humanity for many years,
Hmm.
which is something that I definitely did not know before I started working with whale sound. But this is a field that has been very active since the
Hmm.
1960s, for example, when first recordings were discovered and publications were produced. It really does touch a special nerve, I think, in our subconscious, that you hear it and you're kind of curious, most people,
Hmm.
to hear more. And I think now, I recently read that we're using AI to kind of decode what they're saying, which is a whole nother conversation
Right. Right.
altogether.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, as a musician, I've definitely approached this from a sound perspective, and they're fantastic creative
Right.
collaborators. So that that was kind of my way in, and of course, they're extremely cute and lovable
Mm-hmm.
and very good uh, awareness builders for important causes. So they serve many purposes, which sometimes can be used not so good.
Right.
But we try and stay on the positive side
Mm-hmm.
there. But yeah, for me, it's mostly coming from the sound.
Yeah, they're very, very charismatic show animals for sure. That's great.
Yes,
I don't know if
very
you
similar to us too.
Yes, that as well. I don't know if you'd ever heard as well about how whales have like pop culture in their songs. I was listening to
Really?
it's the Nat Geo. They had a little overheard podcast. And they've actually tracked where, there will be a whale song and it will kind of spread through different pods, and like it'll be like the hit of the summer sometimes, where there will be like a specific song that like everybody's singing, and it actually does get like moved around some of the different oceans, and then it will probably change in the next season. So there's so much complexity there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
I did not know that. I'm gonna have to look
Yeah, I
that
think
up.
it's like the first episode of Overheard on National Geographic, as a little podcast that they had. So
Oh,
definitely check that out. So cool.
thank
All
you.
right.
I've always been a big fan of nature focused
Mhm.
documentaries. I still remember, for example, the first time I saw Planet Earth on BBC, like back when HD TV was a new
Right.
thing, and this was this was revolutionary. And so I do think there's a lot for us to learn from other
Hmm.
species as human beings, Homo sapiens, and to observe how other species are with each other in
Hmm.
community in their society, I think can teach us a lot, which I have definitely been fascinated by the more I learn about how whales and dolphins, for example, survive
Hmm.
together.
Right.
And over the last few years, I've gotten to make some really incredible underwater experiences directly listening to song underwater and being able to feel that and really understand, what the recordings are like in person.
Hmm.
And yeah, this has been so enriching for me as a human. So it's hard to really describe, but I just think there's something about it that's quite
Right.
uplifting.
Well, if people want to get a snippet of that, they can check out Sounds of the Ocean and see for themselves.
That's
This is
true.
a great
That's true.
segue. I would love to talk a little bit about kind of the creative process and the behind the scenes. So, for the Sounds of the Ocean, what comes first for you then? Is it the audio and video recordings of the animals, or is it the music, or how does that process look like for you?
Mm. That's a great question. It usually starts with an audio recording of a particular
Hmm.
species. And I'm a big fan of keeping things really simple. So I like to give each species kind of a
Hmm.
solo and combine that with one instrument at a time.
Hmm.
And that becomes a conversation to support what that species, that creature is saying, and not make it too busy with a lot of musical effects and, style and all of that. So I like to bring that approach of mindfulness and sound healing
Hmm.
into that process of creatively composing, music to go along with one of those recordings. For example, I love playing the clarinet with humpback
Mm.
whales, and I could not tell you why that works so well,
Okay.
but it does.
Great.
and it's just like that's the
Hmm.
sound. And so it's a very intuitive approach. I definitely, would say there's many other ways that one could interpret that process, but this has been my process. So it's very, yeah, it's very much starting with the sound, and then usually the music kind of comes next, and then an image or some type of visual to enhance that would be kind of the final step, and rework it from there as needed.
Okay, that's so cool. So for the recordings, for the sound and the video, you said they were all original recordings that you and your team did, or did you have some from other people as well?
So we decided when we were looking for the right collaborators to make the visual part of Sounds of the Ocean come to life, that as much as we would have liked to go into the ocean ourselves and film and document and capture, we would never be able to get the experience finished in
Right.
time because we were kind of on a pretty tight deadline back then to get it ready for a performance. So we reached out to our network and just started putting out feelers in different ways to find the material that we needed. And I'm so happy that we did it that way because it allowed us to meet some of the best filmmakers around the world that I never would have got to meet otherwise, who were so generous and gave us rights to use their material as part of this project. For example, Howard Hall is an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker in San Diego, California, as well as Lisa Denning in Hawaii, and a few other contributors as well that really helped us make the visual story come to life. And we also wound up commissioning artists to produce original artwork for the performance and the project that was not video of ocean life, but instead recordings of oil and water paintings that they would create in a studio. And we used these at the beginning and the end of our experience to kind of just get you in the right state of mind. Honestly, that's really what it's about, to go on this underwater journey. And I love these pieces so much. They're so beautiful and really represent a style of art that I find so organic because it is real water and real colored oil pigments moving together in a very fluid way that they've captured, of course, with a very high resolution camera. We're not talking about digital graphics here, CGI, animation. I respect that art form dearly, but Sounds of the Ocean is truly a organic production.
Right. Okay, that is so cool. That it's neat to add like also the artistic element, and you get in that painting like the interpretation of how we view the ocean coming to life like out of that water and oil like you said. So I'm sure that adds a lot to the experience.
Definitely, and one other layer that's been really exciting for us to develop is a dance performance at our live concerts, which really takes things to a whole new level because you just have that extra art form to connect to. And most recently, our lead dancer and also my partner and creative kind of collaborator, her name's Eliza Line. She's choreographed this incredible dance performance where she's actually using plastic in the performance to really articulate a very touching story in the evolution of our show and also the course of humanity. So it's quite nice to see these different elements come together between music, visual, and dance. Artistry all be joined together, very much inspired by other projects like Cirque du Soleil and wonderful productions that have blended those types of things in the past.
Right. That's excellent. So many layers to that. That's beautiful. So you did tell me the instruments you choose kind of as it goes. And then so do you write all of the music yourself for the production?
I have written, I would say, about 80% of the music myself. Eliza also composed a piano composition that we used in one section, which is beautiful. And we worked with a cellist in Montana, actually, for another section. So I I've been involved in all of the music throughout the piece as either a composer or director to guide our other artists on what we need really to fit it, into the style of the piece. But it's been a lot of fun to also share that writing process and creative development musically with other artists. And we have some exciting ideas for that going forward too, because this is really just Sounds of the Ocean 1.0 in terms of the musical score. So perhaps in the future there'll be other interpretations using a similar approach, perhaps. But yes, so far I have been the main composer on the project.
Right. Yeah, this is really, really a global project. Hey, you've had collaborators from everywhere.
We have. Well, it's a global ocean.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, great. I always like to kind of look into the nitty gritty of, the art always is of such a small portion of the work that actually went into it. How many hours do you think of recording you had versus what you parsed it down to for the show?
That's a good question. When working with licensed footage, actually, you don't necessarily wind up with that much extra because you're kind of being very selective from the beginning of what you need.
Right.
But I would say we were on a maybe 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 ratio.
Okay. Yeah.
Between what we were receiving and what we wound up using.
Yeah. Pretty normal, but it's a lot. It's quite a bit of work.
Yeah. I have worked as well in documentaries, and with documentaries, you just shoot so much. So, I really remember those days as the editor on many of those projects. But for this project, that actually wasn't such a concern for us. It was, I'd say it was more a question of finding, we were very specific, so we didn't really take something unless it really felt right.
That makes it easier, doesn't it? Excellent.
Yes and no.
Yes and no, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. You have to go through a lot of stuff still anyway. All right. So,
yes, it was an excellent process.
So people have, become inspired, and we talked a little bit about working locally and stuff, but after people, maybe for the first time feel inspired to make a difference, where do you think they should start? What is an action somebody can take specifically? I mean, I know, like you said, if they go to one of your shows, the ticket already, has some amount that goes to conservation, but what's a good place just to start if you've never even considered trying to make a difference in the planet or in the oceans?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, one person that's been a huge inspiration to me is an author named Jay Nichols, who wrote a book called Blue Mind, which is a theory that we very much believe in and have integrated into our lives. And I asked him kind of this question in a different way a few years ago, and his answer was really useful, which I wanted to share with you, because when we really, I think, ask ourselves what to do, and what is that first step we can take, that looks different for everyone. So what that might be for me is totally different than you. But we both probably already know something that we could be doing that we're not doing. And so what if we just did that? All of us. And be the one to make that decision autonomously for ourselves as to what that step is. And if you don't know what that step is, then Googling it, is a great place to start, right? If you want to be curious. So I never like to assume that I know what's best for everyone to do, but I do think that there are some basic things that people can do in terms of lifestyle, food choices, different types of donation-based actions you can take. Cleanup work is always needed. Depending on exactly what you want to get out of it, just going for a walk with a friend and brainstorming,
Mm-hmm.
and having a conversation about like, hey, what if we did this or that this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
that could lead to a whole set of ideas. So I think just inviting that question and that curiosity and real inner awareness of like what is something you've been thinking about. Maybe you want to eat a little bit less fish or meat, for
Mm-hmm.
example, which has been shown to have a pretty negative effect on the planet. Maybe give that a
Right.
try. But maybe it's something completely different than that, for example. And so I think I really liked that approach of giving people that permission to really make that choice for
Mm-hmm.
themselves and come at a similar goal from many different starting points.
Right. I really like that. Yeah. It's, you probably know deep down already what's something that you could do. So why not start there? Right. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like I make a personal effort to really reduce my use of single-use plastic, for
Right.
example. That's like something that I really, yeah, just try to avoid
Mm-hmm.
as much as possible. Um, that's a really easy place to
Mm-hmm.
start, just giving out ideas and
Mm-hmm.
examples. Um, there's, but yeah, there's probably something that you're already aware of that you're just not doing
Right.
yet. So do
Right.
that.
Great. I love it. So, as a total, what do you think's been like the most difficult part of this entire project for you? What's something that's been challenging?
Hmm. Let's see. We've definitely had COVID was
Right.
tough. That was a challenge. I almost gave up during that
Mm-hmm.
time and was like, this is just too hard. I did give up, I'd say, for a couple months. I really kind of just put this out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
But so happy I did not stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a close
Right.
one. But since then, I would say just finding the right support to help us keep growing, and keep the operations running smoothly. It is incredibly challenging no matter what you're starting as an entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
and as a small business startup founder. I think that journey is difficult for everyone, combined with the lack of resources that we see in the arts specifically
Mm-hmm.
has made our, I think, early years even more challenging than other startups that are more in technology or finance or other industries that are just well supported, because of the nature of the industry. The arts seems to really be its own kind of silo of a particular
Mm-hmm.
kind that many people are just not interested to get involved with because they know it's
Yeah.
difficult. And so I think that has definitely been a challenge for us, but fortunately now we are overcoming that very critical, peak of a climb, so to
Right.
speak, and getting a lot of folks interested to not only come but you know pay to come to our experiences, and this really helps keep us going because you have to. One thing I've definitely had to learn as well is you can really have great ideas and a great vision for how to change the world. You got to make it
Yeah.
sustainable so
Mm-hmm.
that you can also survive and support yourself to keep doing that. So I think I came very close to a burnout phase and then redirected, which was quite helpful, to be able to not only give but also receive from the world as well to be doing this. And hopefully now that's on its way up
Right.
for good.
Excellent. That's great. That's a awesome answer. Thank you so much for that. On the positive upspin, what do you think's been most rewarding out of this experience?
Oh, by far for me, the most rewarding is whether it's a live performance or a listening session or a film screening, to just see the looks on people's faces walking out of what it is that we've produced. Some of them will come up and speak to me
Mm-hmm.
directly, or send an email or a message on Instagram. and receiving that feedback from the audience, really seeing the impact that this experience can have on an individual, is deeply rewarding, for us as the creators of the project. And that, combined with our impact directly in the ocean, where when I come back to the office and can tally up, all of our ticket sales and numbers, and really realize, okay, we just removed like 2,000 pounds of plastic with this last
Right.
tour. That's also really
Right.
rewarding. And this is very energizing, which is so important too when you're building something like this, because, yeah, you have to have that inner motivation. And I just love seeing the reaction from the world and our community now to, help us grow.
Right. So now that people really are excited about this, how, when, and where can people watch Sounds of the Ocean?
Great question. The best place to check us out is on our
Mm-hmm.
website, which is
Mm-hmm.
soundsoftheocean.com. And we are actually doing a streaming offer this month for World Oceans Month, which will start in about 7 days on the platform called
Okay.
Waterbear, which is an incredible platform. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, but it's all environmental
Okay.
films. And we'll be on there for 10 days, and we'll have a short film uploaded, so you'll be able to have a taste of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we are currently building out the world tour to come to cities, all around North America and Europe as the two main areas we're starting out. So whether it will be a live show or a film experience, we would love to have you in person as well. But yeah, since we are in the midst of World Ocean Month here, definitely check us out on Waterbear, leave comments, and connect with us on all the
Great.
channels.
And is there like a newsletter or social media where people can keep like a better update about when shows might be coming to their area?
Yes, we are very active on
Okay.
Instagram, which is Sounds of the
Mm-hmm.
Ocean. And we have a newsletter on our website as well,
Perfect.
soundsoftheocean.com, which you can sign up to.
Okay, excellent. That sounds good. So I always kind of want to ask like a bit of a silly question to my guests as we're heading out. Maybe this one's profound, maybe it's silly, but if you could ask a whale one question, what do you think it would be? And have them answer you.
That's a good one. I would want to know what's your favorite food? No, I'm kidding. uh, let's see. Um, I would want to know, like, tell me about the ocean, and just see what they say.
Right. Yeah. Like, what is it like from their perspective, kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Excellent. So Joshua, before we sign off, is there anything I didn't ask about that you'd like to mention? Something that, you want to leave us with?
I think you covered pretty much everything, and just to say thank you again for having us
Mhm.
on. I've really loved talking with you, and I'm excited to have you at an event one day.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that'd be good. Hopefully I'll be in the area somewhere and I can come check it out. Great. All right. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this. We focus a lot on research usually on this podcast, but it's so nice to dive like really into the art side of it, which is so crucial for environmental protection and conservation, and mental health is really important to me and to this show as well. So it was really great to have this special little episode here. And just before I sign off, I do have to give a quick shout out to my three beautiful patrons. I have Rob Nelson, Sabrina Moore, and Jack Glass. Your guys' support means a lot while this show is growing. And a million thanks to Garrett, who's my sound and editing wizard. You can check out the link for his contact in the show notes for any of your audio needs. And thanks for tuning in, friends, and have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you head to the show notes, check out the links of things I might have mentioned in the show, go follow us on social media, and yes, do @ me. I'd love to hear from you, what you think, if you want to be a guest with me, if you have suggestions for future episodes, that would be great. Other than that, we do have a Patreon link as well below if you're feeling like helping support the show, and I can't wait to see you around for next episode. Thanks, bye.